From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Mixed Up Sports on MixedUpSports.com, powered by Twitch.tv. Here on this Monday, it is the 18th day of 2016. My name is Frank Marchese, Crucial Ryan to my left, Nick Sexton to my right. Boys, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good.
We will begin today, as everyone has, with the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And guys, it's said to be the best weekend for football of the season, and it surely did not disappoint this weekend.
Well, we started off with the Patriots and the Chiefs game that took place at Gillette Stadium, and that was a game in itself. Patriots coming on top. With everybody last week was against them, and thinking that this may be the end of the season for the Patriots. The defense of the Kansas City Chiefs are just too overpowering, and they're unstoppable on offense. And we saw what happened. And then we had it was a game of controversy as well, which we all love at some points, but in the end it was Patriots to win. So, and then we had the Packers and Cardinals game, which I'll let you guys go to because as a Packer fan that was ridiculous. And then we had Panthers basically take it away with a huge win, and then we had the unbearable game last night between Denver and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, it was there were some great games in there. Um, to start off with the Chiefs and the Patriots game, like you mentioned, a lot of controversy, and I mean, it started out quite early with a controversial touchdown to Gronk, which I thought could have been called a push off. There's certainly been calls where there's been less of a push off, and that was called. Then you go into the no call on passing or roughing the passer on Alex Smith. I mean the officiating, especially in Saturday games, it was very controversial to say the least. And I don't know. It was then you go to the Seahawks and Panthers game, and I thought that the Seahawks might have been able to get a win out there, but starting with the huge run by Stewart, and then Russell Wilson with no time in the pocket, and Kuechly picks him off and takes back all the way. I mean, that really just put Seattle in a hole they just could not climb out of, and it was a good weekend of football for some games. Others it was tough to watch, like you mentioned the Steelers game. But overall, it was a great weekend of football.
And we'll begin as you guys have been talking about the Kansas City New England game. This is a game where I said it. I said it on Friday. There are. It's how many times have we seen? Oh, it's the end of the Patriot dynasty. It's the end of this. It's the end of. And they always find a way to come through and win in the big spot. And they definitely did that here. I'm watching the Gronkowski touchdown right now. I, to me, that's borderline. I don't really see much of a push. I think it was just a better turn by Gronkowski that got him through. I think maybe Smith overran him a little bit. I don't see anything wrong with the first Gronkowski touchdown.
I mean, it was kind of for me. I think a lot of it gets thrown to, oh well, Gronk's just a physical tight end, and so he might get away with some of that stuff. But I don't know. I'm not saying it was an obvious push off, but I'm just saying
I
that
don't think there was any. I didn't think it had anything to do with physicality at all. I think he just out juked him.
well, I feel like at least in this NFL season, there's been plenty of push off calls there's been plenty of uh,
Agreed.
touchdowns called back because of a push off for much less than that. So I don't know. It might be I might be blinded from my hatred for the Patriots, but that's just me.
Well, with Gronkowski in the way, they played as a whole unit. That touchdown, like I said, I'm kind of leaning towards I didn't see much to go that way, but there could be an argument say, well, maybe there was a tiny bit, but like I said, there wasn't enough evidence for me to go, well, yeah, that was a penalty. But Gronk himself had a tremendous game, making defenses shaky and then making mistakes, as we saw for his second touchdown. How badly the corner bit. That was, you guys can agree with me, that was, for a defensive player, that's going to be the most heartbreaking to have bit that hard for no accomplishment whatsoever. It was a game that it was a competitive game, especially towards the end, but at the same time, there was other stuff that, I think we need to talk about was the, Danny Amendola hit, which, that's sparked a fight for, Kansas City in the, in the fight between the two teams. And for me, did it seem a little bit hard hit? Yeah, absolutely. But I can somewhat see how that wasn't necessarily a dirty hit. However, I'm sure you guys can argue that it was, but from my point of view, it wasn't.
And then the Gronkowski, the second Gronkowski touchdown. He definitely got that corner to bite so hard on that curl. But Gronkowski was already running down the field, and I mean, he's still going in trying to cut off the slant. But looking at this Amendola hit right now, you want to say it's crown of the helmet? It's definitely crown of the helmet. He definitely hit him with the crown, but he definitely hit him in the crown with the shoulder. He got penalized as he should have. He's going to get fined, and more likely than not, he's going to get fined as he should. Again, that's not, a lot of people have compared it to the hit on Antonio Brown. I believe for Amendola at least, that's an unfair comparison. You got to think Amendola does not have a history of dirty plays like that.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a history of dirty plays, but comparing it was both hitting them in the shoulder. I believe that for Amendola.
Oh no, he got Antonio Brown in the head. There was no question.
Well, I mean, like with their shoulder, with Burfict and Amendola both got their respective targets, I guess you would say, with their shoulder, not their crown, but not the crown of the helmet. But with the Amendola hit, I believe that. I mean, sure, you can say he was blocking the man trying to down the ball, but I mean that's just basically not blindsiding him, but to come in and spear him right in the head with his shoulder. That was, in my opinion, it was a dirty hit, no question, because it's
There's
almost
a reason you fair catch those.
Yeah, it's almost like if that was it's kind of like a defenseless receiver type thing, but obviously they don't have a rule for a defenseless, I don't know, special teams player, but
Well, that's why they had the fair catch, so that they can be defensive and still not get hit, or defenseless and still not get hit.
well, I mean, on like the team kicking, because he was trying to down the ball, and then Amendola just came and just completely decleated him. And the beef I have with the Patriots is that they always toe the line. With that hit, he hits him with his shoulder, where it's not hitting with the crown of his helmet, but it's with his shoulder. So it's not.
He hit him with the crown of the helmet into the shoulder.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Amendola didn't attack him with his crown of the helmet, with his shoulder. So it's like he's kind of where it's not legally a dirty hit in the rule book, but everyone could see that, or at least most people could see that it was truly a dirty hit. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, we can see. Well, I can see what you mean by that, but in a certain extent, maybe it was. I don't know. I guess it was. You can argue. I'm sure Patriots fans. Granted, I can't stand Patriots fans just by the way they defend their team as if their team's perfect. But from their point of view, I guess you can state that they, it was great trying to make a team play to benefit them in some sort of way. Could there have been a different way about it? Obviously, this could have gone a different way and just not had happened altogether. But like you guys had said, he got penalized. It's a game of football, and you're gonna expect hits like this, but you can't go without stating that there needs to be some kind of repercussion. We got that with the Burfitt hit where on Antonio Brown, where he ended up getting fined and suspended, a game for next season and whatnot. And he's going to get some kind of repercussion. That's obviously, but his when you have his head coach, Bill Belichick had stated, because I read on an article that he had stated that was it wasn't a dirty hit. And I'm not gonna, sit here and go and say that it was or it wasn't, because I'm not a coach or a player. But from our point of view, that was obviously a dirty hit in some cases. But it can also be argued differently.
That one for me, that one's borderline. I definitely believe it. I definitely believe it had a lot of dirty. He definitely hit him with the crown of the helmet. He definitely hit a defenseless player. He got penalized. He's going to get fined, as he should. The suspension, I don't think a suspension is warranted. I don't know. I'll ask you guys. I genuinely don't think a suspension is warranted for that hit.
I don't think a suspension is warranted. Definitely a fine, and then you got the penalty. Maybe a 1-game suspension, but going back, if we compare it to the Burfict hit, the reason that he got suspended for, I believe it's the first 3 games of next season, is because of his history. Because,
and he went headhunting on that hit.
Yeah.
That wasn't a headhunt.
Yeah, but with Burfict's history, he's known as kind of a dirty player, so I feel like that kind of factored into the punishment as well. With Amendola, he's not really known as that, and it wasn't as bad as Burfict's hit, so I don't think a suspension is necessary. But like you mentioned, definitely I can see a hefty fine coming his way.
I'll agree with you that there doesn't need to be a suspension, but like you guys have stated, there are going to be some form of repercussions, whether or not it's a fine or some kind of, if he's not, allowed on this, special teams anymore by the team personnel or whatnot. There's going to be some kind of repercussions, because we obviously know that, the Patriots as an association and organization, they are, they like to be classy, which I know you don't like to hear, Nick, because like you said, you have some kind of hatred towards them. But they are, Bill Belichick's one of the top coaches. He's not going to just be like, hey, it was okay. Granted, he's supporting his player, but if there's going to be some kind of punishment for it, we're definitely going to see him enforce it in some kind of way.
The only punishment I can see, and it's not even a punishment, I think it's more player safety, is taking Amendola, because Amendola is their punt returner. Is their punt and kick returner. If there's a situation like that, I'm sorry, I'm not letting some player on another team take out anger for what he did against Kansas City. It ain't gonna happen. But Nick, I think it's come time to where you and me are alone in the conversation, as the Green Bay Packers took on the Arizona Diamondbacks in what was
Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals, pardon me. In what was a fantastic game played by both teams. Of course, crucially, you'll say the officiating was off, which it was off in every game. When you get not one Hail Mary, but 2. One when you're running out of the end zone on a 4th and 20, and then another one as time is running out in the same drive, to Larry Fitzgerald going into the Wayback Machine and playing like he did 6 or 7 years ago. It was an absolutely amazing game. It had all the twists, all the turns, all the drama you could have wanted. Definitely the game of the week, if not the game of the year.
Yeah, I said this on Friday that it would either be a complete blowout or it would be an extremely tight game, but I didn't know which way it would turn based on how this Packers team played. But this was a new Packers team for when they faced the Cardinals last time. I think they gave up, maybe like 1 sack compared to 8 in the previous meeting between the Cardinals and the Packers.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken too much stock into that last game. Into here.
And so that's what everyone thought, but then all of a sudden they come out here and they're challenging the 2nd seed in the NFC. And, Carson Palmer, in this game, he could have easily played a better game than he had. Granted, he came back and he had a decent game, but there's a couple questionable throws that Palmer made, and it almost cost
He
them.
should have had at least 5 picks in that game. How he didn't have at least five is beyond me.
And then you go, yeah, and then you go to the 100-yard pick six by Patrick Peterson, called back by, I think it was illegal hands to the face on a defensive lineman, which was
Yep,
just,
the GD linemen.
yeah, it was tough to, it was tough for a defensive back to take it all the way and then get it called back. But then, like you mentioned, Larry Fitzgerald, this was a different Larry Fitzgerald than we saw the entire year. I mean, in overtime to run it, what, like nearly, I think, 75 yards or something to the 4 yard line, and it was it was really really fitting for Fitzgerald to get that rushing or the triple option pitch to him to score the touchdown to send him into the NFC Championship game, and that was it was like you mentioned, easily the game of the week and possibly the game of the year.
I'm gonna start off by saying that I stated this last week. I said that no Packer fan expects the Packers to win because of how we've been playing the season and the injuries we've suffered and faced. It was like this seemed like an almost Herculean task, and then we came out and played like we did. I'm gonna give all the props to both teams because no one expected it to be like it was. At one point, you could easily have said, "Well, this is Packers are gonna win it. They're in the lead. They are stopping them on offense as far as Arizona moving the ball. They were the league leading in yards for offense, and they were held to 75 for a whole half. That's for Green Bay defense. That's a milestone in itself to hold that team to under 100 yards in an entire half. We played great. They got 2 interceptions on Palmer. And you should, like you had stated, Frank, that they should have been a lot more. And there were some, costly ones that were drops, which, you can't be too upset about because of the way they played. But it was a game that came down to the absolute last second. In which case, we had that Hail Mary like we did against Detroit. This time wasn't for a win. Sent us to overtime, and I'm gonna give the props, like you guys said, Larry Fitzgerald, a completely rejuvenated receiver that everybody writ off in the beginning of the season, to him pulling out that kind of performance. He's a Hall of Famer in the making, and it would be a perfect ending to his career if he would, somehow get to the Super Bowl and win that ring. But overall, it was a good game. Yes, I'm going to complain about, officiating, but we've all heard it. We've all had bad games of officiating, so I can't really say too much about it. Overall, good game, and congrats to Cardinals.
I genuinely don't think Fitzgerald is done. I think he's got a couple more years still left in him. But I mean, to see the way he definitely took a trip in the way back machine. He played the way he played when Kurt Warner took it to the Super Bowl. It was absolutely phenomenal to see a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who has been with Arizona his entire career, has played there his entire career, and has had such a wonderful career and really nothing to show for it except for one trip to the Super Bowl, which, some small feat, right? But to see him have a game the way he did was absolutely phenomenal and well deserved. Well deserved. And we have a minute before we jump out of this. So let's talk about what everyone on social media is talking about, is the freaking coin flip. I don't understand why you can't just you got to flip it out of the palm of your hand. Why can't you just put it on your thumb and flip it? I don't understand that. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that the result was the same either way, that Arizona would have won the coin toss, so it didn't really matter. But I mean, you got to think that refs at least practice that once before the game. I mean,
I've never seen it.
You have to try not to flip it in order for that outcome to happen. I don't understand how it happened, but it was definitely an interesting start to the overtime period, and did not see that one coming.
Like I said, there's so many problems with the officiating that game that I'm just going to pass over and back to you, Frankie, because there's no point in really talking about it. So,
I mean, just put it on your thumb, man. You don't have to flip it out. And you heard, if you listen again, you hear him stutter twice. He was ready to give the ball to Arizona just based off of that. And then he saw Green Bay completely going nuts, and then he goes, all right, I'll reflip it. There you go, happy to flip. It's unbelievable. The whole thing was stupid. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll get to the other two games, plus a quick little overview of what's going on next week. We will be back